There comes a moment in life, perhaps you're experiencing it now, when silence no longer feels gentle or soothing. Instead, it presses in around you, not loud, but heavy. You might find yourself sitting in your favorite chair, the one you've kept for years, noticing how your mind refuses to settle. Thoughts begin to drift in, little worries, old regrets, imagined futures. And before you even realize it, anxiety has taken a seat beside you, uninvited but persistent. Welcome to Moon Mind Temple. In this gentle journey tonight, we'll explore the timeless wisdom of Buddhist teachings that can help calm your anxious mind and guide you toward restful sleep. As you listen, allow yourself to simply be. There is nothing you need to do, nowhere you need to go. Just breathe and receive these words as we walk this path together. The quiet hours between dusk and sleep can sometimes feel the heaviest. The house grows still, but your mind grows louder. You might notice how the silence that once felt comforting now feels like a weight, pressing down, making space for all the thoughts you've been too busy to hear during the day. This is a common experience, one that connects us all in our shared humanity. You are not alone in these moments of midnight anxiety. What if I told you that this anxiety isn't proof that something is wrong with you? That it's not a weakness, not a failure, not a punishment for having lived too deeply or loved too much? What if instead, anxiety was simply a signpost, pointing you towards something important that needs your gentle attention? In the teachings of Buddha, suffering, including anxiety, isn't something to be fought against. It's something to be understood. And more than that, it's something that can guide us back to what truly matters in our lives. You see, many of us were taught to push anxiety away, to ignore it, suppress it, or cover it up with endless distractions. But Buddhist wisdom teaches something radically different. It teaches that our discomfort can be a doorway, that anxiety isn't our enemy, it's our teacher, arriving with a message we've perhaps ignored for too long. This is especially true in the later chapters of life, when there's more stillness, more space to feel, more time to remember. This message grows louder when we are no longer rushing from task to task. Instead, we are left with ourselves, with our thoughts, with our breath. And that is where the deeper work begins, the work of coming home to yourself. As you listen to these words, allow your body to soften. Feel the weight of your body supported by whatever you're resting on, perhaps a bed, a couch, or a comfortable chair. Notice how your breath naturally flows in and out, without any effort on your part. This natural rhythm has been with you since your first moment in this world, and it will be with you until your last. There is profound peace in this simple awareness. Tonight, we're going to explore powerful ideas from the heart of Buddhist philosophy that don't erase anxiety, but gently shift how we hold it. These teachings have comforted monks in remote mountains, calmed warriors before battle, and brought peace to countless ordinary people navigating the quiet storms of daily life. If you've ever felt trapped in your thoughts, overwhelmed by feelings you can't name, or simply exhausted from carrying the weight of worry for so long, I invite you to stay with me. This journey isn't about denial or toxic positivity. It's about truth. It's about freedom. Because the truth is, you are not broken. You are not failing. You are simply being invited to see anxiety differently. Let's begin not by fighting anxiety, but by meeting it right where it lives, in our own minds and in the things we hold on to most tightly. In Buddhist understanding, anxiety doesn't appear out of nowhere. It has roots, and those roots are known by two powerful names: attachment and aversion. Think of attachment as the grasping hand of the mind. It clings to the things we love, to comfort, to certainty, to the people we've built our lives around. And when life threatens to change, as it always does, that grasping becomes fear. It whispers, "Don't take this from me." We hold tightly to what brings us joy, to the familiar patterns that make us feel safe, to the relationships that give our lives meaning. And in that tight grip, anxiety is born. The fear of loss, the dread of change. On the other side is aversion, the part of us that pushes away what we don't want. Pain, loss, illness, loneliness, even the natural process of aging. We reject these experiences. We resist them. We fight them, hoping that maybe, just maybe, if we push hard enough, they will leave us alone. We turn away from the difficult emotions, the uncomfortable sensations, the challenging truths of being human. And in that turning away, anxiety finds another home. The fear of what we cannot control, the exhaustion of constant resistance. But this clinging and resisting is exhausting. And more than that, they don't work. As the Buddha taught, whatever is subject to arising is subject to ceasing. In other words, everything changes. Your body changes. Your relationships shift. Even your emotions, those storms that seem to last forever, will rise and fall like waves on the ocean. Yet it's our refusal to accept this truth that gives rise to anxiety. Consider the nature of change in your own life. Think of the seasons, how winter yields to spring, how summer fades into autumn. Think of how the moon waxes and wanes, how the tide comes in and goes out. These natural rhythms don't cause suffering. It's only when we expect permanence in an impermanent world that we begin to suffer. Imagine a retired man named Thomas, who used to walk the lake trail near his home every morning at 6 a.m. sharp. It was part of who he was, that discipline, that routine. The morning light reflecting off the water, the familiar faces of other early risers, the rhythm of his footsteps on the path. These things gave structure to his days and meaning to his identity. But when a hip injury forced him to stop, Thomas began to unravel. He didn't just lose a habit. He lost what he had come to believe was a part of his identity. His anxiety grew. He began to dread the mornings, those quiet hours that used to bring him peace, now only reminded him of what he had lost. In a conversation over tea, a friend gently asked him, "Thomas, what is it you're holding on to?" He paused, looked out the window and whispered, "The version of me that could still move freely." This is what the Buddha pointed to. Our suffering isn't born from change itself, but from our refusal to let go of how things used to be. When we cling to the past or reject the present, anxiety slips into the space between, and it begins to whisper, "You are losing control." But here's the liberating truth. We never had control to begin with. The lotus grows in muddy water, and yet it blooms in beauty. Likewise, Our peace doesn't come from keeping everything the same. It comes from learning to open our hands, to stop grasping, to stop pushing, and simply allow life to be what it is. Think of your own hands for a moment. Perhaps they're resting in your lap or by your sides. Imagine them as they are when they're grasping something tightly. The fingers curled in, the muscles tense, the energy of holding on. Now imagine those same hands slowly opening, the fingers relaxing, the palms facing upward in a gesture of receiving. This is the physical embodiment of letting go, not abandoning what matters, but holding it lightly, with enough space for it to change, to move, to be what it needs to be. You are not your routines. You are not your youth. You are not your past. And when you begin to loosen your grip on expectations, on perfection, on the need to have it all figured out, you'll start to notice something incredible. Anxiety begins to loosen its grip on you too. As an ancient Buddhist text, the Dhammapada says, "From attachment springs grief, from attachment springs fear. But for one who is free from attachment, there is no grief and certainly no fear." What would happen if today, even just a little, you allowed yourself to unclench the fists of your mind? What if peace isn't found in getting things back to how they were, but in meeting this very moment with open arms? This doesn't mean you must let go of everything at once. Small steps toward acceptance can bring surprising relief. Perhaps it begins with acknowledging a simple truth. Things are changing and that's natural. Perhaps it's allowing yourself to feel sad about a loss without adding the extra layer of resistance. I shouldn't feel this way. Maybe it's simply pausing in a moment of stress to open your hands, literally and metaphorically, releasing what you cannot control. Remember that letting go is not the same as giving up. It's not about abandoning what matters to you. It's about holding your experiences, your expectations, and even your identity with a lighter touch. It's about creating space for life to flow through you rather than against you. And in that space, anxiety often finds less to feed on. As you continue to listen, allow your breath to deepen slightly. With each inhale, imagine drawing in calm, clear energy. With each exhale, release anything that doesn't serve you. Your body knows how to find balance. Your mind knows how to find peace. Sometimes we just need to get out of our own way and let this natural wisdom emerge. There's a moment in everyone's life. Maybe it comes in the still hours before dawn, or perhaps in the middle of a crowded afternoon, when a thought arrives uninvited and settles like a weight on the chest. It might whisper, "Something's wrong," or shout, "What if this never gets better?" And before we know it, we are no longer living in the present moment. We are living inside that thought. It becomes a world of its own, a world filled with shadows, tension, and fear. The mind is remarkable in its ability to create entire landscapes from a single thought. One worry about health can spiral into visions of hospitals and worst-case scenarios. One concern about a loved one can expand into elaborate stories of rejection or loss. One moment of insecurity can grow into a narrative of lifelong failure. These thought worlds feel incredibly real when we're caught in them. They have texture, emotion, seeming solidity. They can make our hearts race and our bodies tense as if the imagined danger were physically present. But the Buddha, in his quiet clarity, offered a thought so simple, so gently powerful, that it can begin to unravel anxiety at its root. That thought is this. This too is just a thought. Pause with that for a moment. Not every thought is true. Not every thought is worthy of your trust. Some are echoes of old fears. Some are habits of worry, passed down like family heirlooms. Some are simply the brain doing what it's done for centuries, scanning, protecting, imagining. But a thought, no matter how loud or persistent, is not a fact. It is a passing cloud across the sky of your awareness. Consider how many thoughts pass through your mind in a single day. Thousands upon thousands. Many of them contradictory. Many of them forgettable. Many of them mere fragments or impressions rather than fully formed ideas. If we believed every thought that arose, we would be pulled in countless directions, unable to find any center, any peace. The Buddha recognized this nature of the mind, its restlessness, its tendency to proliferate, and offered a way to relate to it with greater wisdom and ease. A wise teacher once said, "Don't believe everything you think. Even the thoughts that feel urgent are often just ripples on the surface of the mind. And the more we meditate, reflect, and truly observe, the more we begin to see the truth in this." Anxiety, as overwhelming as it can feel, often begins with a single thought. And that thought gains power only when we believe it without question. Imagine that each thought is like a seed. Some seeds, if planted in fertile soil and given attention, will grow into massive trees with deep roots and sprawling branches. Others, if simply noticed and allowed to pass, remain merely seeds, small, contained, harmless. The practice is learning which thoughts to plant and which to let be, not through forceful rejection, but through wise discernment. Consider the story of Marlene, 76 years old, widowed, and adjusting to a quieter life than she had known for decades. After her husband passed, she began experiencing a strange kind of fear. She would sit alone in her living room and suddenly worry, "What if I fall and no one's there? What if I forget to turn off the stove? What if I start losing my memory?" These weren't unrealistic fears. They were grounded in possibility, but they weren't happening. They were thoughts, and they arrived with a pounding heart, a tight chest, and a racing mind. In the silence of her home, these thoughts seemed to grow louder, more insistent. They would wake her at night, follow her through her morning routine, sit with her at meals. They became unwelcome companions, casting a shadow over moments that might otherwise have held peace or even joy. Marlene began to identify with these fears, thinking of herself as an anxious person now, as if anxiety had become a permanent part of who she was. Marlene began attending weekly mindfulness classes at the local community center. One afternoon, her instructor asked the group to write down a simple sentence. This thought is not me. It is just a thought. At first it felt silly, too simple to make any difference. But the teacher encouraged them to use this phrase whenever they noticed anxiety arising. Don't fight the thought, she said. Don't try to push it away. Just notice it, name it, and remember that it is not you. So Marlene tried. The next time the familiar fear arose, what if I fall? She gently noted, this is a thought about falling. It is just a thought. When worry about her memory surfaced, she acknowledged, this is a thought about forgetting. It is just a thought. She didn't deny the content of the thoughts or their emotional impact. She simply created a small space between herself and the thought, enough space to remember that she was the observer of the thought, not the thought itself. Over time, this became Marlene's anchor. Each time the fear arose, she would gently repeat it. This thought is not me. It is just a thought. And like a knot slowly coming undone, the grip of those fears began to loosen. The thoughts still came, sometimes with the same intensity, but they began to feel more like weather passing through, rather than defining who she was. You see, in Buddhism, this is known as non-identification, the wisdom of knowing that your thoughts are not who you are. They are movements in the mind, like wind passing through leaves. Some are helpful, some are not, but none of them define your essence. Think of your mind as a vast sky. Thoughts, emotions, sensations. These are all like clouds moving across that sky. Some days the clouds are dark and heavy. Some days they're light and scattered. Some days they seem to fill the entire sky. But no matter what kind of clouds are present, the sky itself remains spacious, boundless, unchanged. You are the sky, not the clouds. You are the awareness in which all experiences arise and pass away. The practice, then, is not to suppress anxious thoughts, nor to shame yourself for having them. The practice is to see them clearly, to say, I see you, thought. You are trying to protect me. You are trying to warn me. But you are not reality, and you are not in control. It's important to note that this isn't about dismissing valid concerns or ignoring real problems that need attention. If there are practical steps you can take to address a worry, like installing safety measures if you're concerned about falling, or setting reminders if you're worried about forgetting something important, by all means, take those steps. The wisdom is in recognizing the difference between helpful problem solving and the endless cycle of anxiety that continues even after you've done what you reasonably can. It's a small shift from being inside the thought to standing beside it. But this shift is everything. As the great teacher Ajahn Chah once said, if you let go a little, you'll have a little peace. If you let go a lot, you'll have a lot of peace. If you let go completely, you'll be free. When the next wave of anxiety rises, try meeting it with gentleness. Say to yourself, this too is just a thought. No battle, no panic. Just a whisper of truth in the heart of the storm. You might be surprised at how such a simple recognition can begin to transform your relationship with anxiety. Remember that this practice takes time. Don't expect your mind to change its habits overnight. Just as it took time for anxiety to establish its patterns in your life, it will take time to create new pathways of peace and clarity. Be patient with yourself. Be gentle. Each moment of awareness is a victory, each return to the present a homecoming. And know that you're not alone in this practice. For thousands of years, people have sat with their difficult thoughts, have learned to observe them rather than become them, have found freedom not in the absence of challenging emotions, but in a new way of relating to them. You are part of this ancient tradition of inner exploration and healing, walking a path that countless others have walked before you. Now, as you continue to listen, notice the rhythm of your breath again. It flows in and out, like waves coming to shore and retreating back to the vast ocean. Your breath connects you to the present moment, the only place where peace ever truly resides. Anxiety often begins with something simple, a flicker of unease while sipping your morning tea, a sudden tightness in the chest while folding laundry, or a vague sense that something is off, though nothing in particular has happened. For many people, especially those who live alone or find themselves in quieter routines, this gentle hum of anxiety can sneak in like a draft under the door. It's not loud, but it lingers, and it pulls the mind away from the warmth of the present moment into the cold corridors of what-ifs and what once was. The mind, left to its own devices, has a remarkable capacity to travel, backward into memories both sweet and painful, forward into futures both hopeful and fearful. And while this ability to reflect and anticipate serves us in many ways, it can also disconnect us from the only moment we ever truly have. This one, right here, right now. But mindfulness, as taught in Buddhist tradition, offers us a doorway back into our bodies, back into our breath, back into the only place where peace ever truly lives, right here, right now. Mindfulness isn't about emptying the mind or forcing stillness. It's about becoming intimate with what is, noticing with loving attention the sensations in your body, the flow of your breath, the rise and fall of your thoughts. It's learning to be where your feet are, instead of being lost in yesterday's memories or tomorrow's fears. The Buddha said, "Do not dwell in the past, do not dream of the future, concentrate the mind on the present moment." And it's a teaching that speaks directly to the heart of anxiety. Because anxiety is always reaching forward. It's a mind trying to predict, to protect, to prepare. But the present moment asks nothing of us except that we be here. Think of how often you've worried about something that never happened. Think of the hours spent rehearsing conversations that never took place, anticipating problems that never materialized, imagining worst-case scenarios that remain safely in the realm of imagination. This is not to say that all concern about the future is misplaced. There is wisdom in preparation, in foresight. But anxiety takes this natural capacity for planning and distorts it, stealing our attention from the present moment and fixating it on what might be, often at great cost to our peace and well-being. Mindfulness invites us to notice when the mind has wandered into these territories of past or future, and to gently bring it back to now, not with criticism or frustration, but with the same patience you might show a child who has wandered off a path. "Ah, there you are. Come back now. This is where life is happening." Let me share a story that might resonate with you. There was an elderly man named Frank, a retired carpenter, quiet and gentle by nature. After his wife passed away, the stillness of the house began to feel more like an echo chamber than a sanctuary. Small worries turned into spirals. What if I forget something important? What if I fall and no one finds me? What if I become a burden to my children? These thoughts took root in the empty hours of the day. Frank noticed how these worries seemed most intense in the evenings, when the house grew quiet and the activities of the day no longer provided distraction. He would sit in his armchair, the same one he and his wife had chosen together decades ago, and feel the absence of her voice, her movement, her presence. And in that absence, fear grew. Frank's doctor recommended a local mindfulness meditation group. Though skeptical, Frank gave it a try. "I don't think sitting around thinking about nothing is going to help," he told his daughter. But he went anyway, if only to have somewhere to be on Tuesday evenings. On his first visit, the teacher asked them to simply sit, close their eyes, and follow the breath. Not to change it, not to force it, just to notice it. Frank felt awkward at first, unsure what he was supposed to be doing or feeling, but he followed the instructions, bringing his attention to the sensation of breath moving in and out of his body. Frank said later, "At first, all I noticed was how loud my thoughts were. They were shouting at me, one after another, like they were afraid I wouldn't hear them if they didn't yell. But eventually, I began to notice my breathing, and then the sound of birds outside the window, and then the warmth in my hands. That was the turning point, when I realized there was more to my experience than just my thoughts. Each breath became an anchor, each step a meditation, each moment an invitation to return." He began practicing 5 minutes a day, just sitting in his garden, hands resting on his knees, eyes soft, breath steady. He didn't try to clear his mind, he simply watched it, like watching clouds drift across the sky. And with time, the clouds grew lighter. "The worries still come," Frank told his daughter months later, "but now there's more space around them. They don't fill up the whole room anymore. And sometimes, when I'm really paying attention to what's actually happening, the taste of my coffee, the sound of rain on the roof, the feel of wood under my hands when I'm in my workshop, I realize I've gone hours without those thoughts crowding in. That's a kind of freedom I didn't know was possible." This is the power of mindfulness. It doesn't promise to erase our struggles, but it teaches us to sit with them without fear. It helps us see that we are not the storm, we are the sky that holds it. Mindfulness is also deeply forgiving. If you drift into thought, that's okay. The moment you notice, you've already returned. That noticing is the practice. That return is the victory. So many of us judge ourselves harshly when we discover our minds have wandered, when anxiety has pulled us away from the present moment yet again. We think, I'm bad at meditation, or I can't do this, or my mind is too busy. But in the Buddhist tradition, each time you notice that your attention has drifted is actually a moment of success, not failure. It's the moment when awareness has returned, when you've woken up from the dream of thought. This moment of noticing is the heart of the practice. And here's another beautiful aspect of mindfulness. It can be practiced anywhere, anytime. You don't need special equipment or a perfect environment. You can practice while washing dishes, feeling the warm water on your hands. You can practice while walking, noticing the pressure and release in your feet. You can practice while listening to a loved one speak, giving them your full, undivided attention. Any moment can be a mindful moment if you choose to show up for it completely. So if anxiety visits you in the quiet of your days, offer it no battle. Instead, offer your breath. Anchor yourself in what you can feel, your feet on the floor, the warmth of sunlight, the rhythm of your inhale and exhale. This is not denial. It's not escape. It's a sacred act of returning. The Zen master, Thich Nhat Hanh, reminds us, feelings come and go like clouds in a windy sky. Conscious breathing is my anchor. Try it now. Take a breath. Feel it travel through your nose. Feel your chest rise. And as you exhale, whisper to yourself, I am here, and here is enough. This simple practice, coming back to your breath, coming back to your body, coming back to this moment, is like laying down stepping stones across the turbulent river of anxiety. Each stone is a moment of presence, a moment of peace. And even if the water rushes all around, you have these stones to support your journey. Remember that mindfulness is not about achieving some perfect state of calm or eliminating all thoughts. It's about seeing clearly what is already here, including anxiety when it's present, and relating to it with awareness rather than automatic reaction. Sometimes simply acknowledging anxiety is here right now without adding judgment or resistance can begin to transform the experience. The anxiety might remain, but your relationship to it changes, and in that change lies freedom. There's a quiet, relentless voice that often accompanies anxiety, and it doesn't belong to the world around us. It belongs to ourselves. It's the inner critic, whispering, "Why are you like this? You should be stronger. You're such a burden." And over time, that voice wears down the spirit, not just with fear, but with shame. You may recognize this voice in your own experience. Perhaps it speaks to you late at night, when you're reviewing the day's events and finding all the ways you feel you've fallen short. Perhaps it accompanies physical symptoms of anxiety, adding a layer of self-judgment. Other people don't get this worked up. What's wrong with me? Perhaps it compares your inner experience to what you perceive in others. Everyone else seems to have it together. Why can't I? This voice is particularly insidious because it disguises itself as wisdom, as the part of you that knows better and wants you to improve. It masquerades as helpful self-critique, as motivation, as realistic assessment. But upon closer inspection, this voice rarely offers genuine help. Instead, It traps you in cycles of shame and anxiety, making it even harder to find your way to peace. But in the teachings of the Buddha, there is a gentle, radical antidote: compassion. And not just for others, but for ourselves, especially for ourselves. You see, many people grew up in a time when emotional needs were silenced, when resilience meant stoicism, and when self-sacrifice was seen as noble. You cared for others, children, partners, aging parents, while quietly shelving your own pain, fatigue, and needs. And perhaps now, when you finally have space to feel, everything you postponed rushes in: anxiety, guilt, grief, regret. But here's what Buddhist wisdom teaches us: that the path to peace is not paved with perfection, it's walked with tenderness. The Buddha said, "You, yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection." These words are not an indulgence. They are a lifeline. They remind us that the circle of compassion must include ourselves if it is to be complete. Just as the oxygen mask on an airplane must go on your own face first, before you can help others, self-compassion is the foundation from which genuine care for others can flow. Consider the story of Ruth, a 79-year-old woman who had spent most of her life caring for others. A nurse by profession and a mother by nature, she had always been the strong one, the dependable one. Through family crises, through her husband's long illness, through raising children and supporting grandchildren, Ruth had been the steady hand, the listening ear, the one who put her own needs last. But after retirement, and especially after losing her sister, the one person to whom Ruth had occasionally confided her own struggles, Ruth began experiencing waves of anxiety. She felt foolish, even embarrassed. "Why now?" she asked. "I've always kept it together. I've faced far worse than this empty house, this quiet life. What's wrong with me that I'm falling apart now, when things are actually easier?" During a mindfulness retreat at a local community center, a Buddhist teacher invited the group to place their hands on their hearts and silently repeat the phrase, "May I be kind to myself in this moment. May I accept myself just as I am." At first, Ruth couldn't do it. Her chest tightened, tears welled. It felt unfamiliar, even selfish. Weren't there people with real problems? People who deserved compassion more than she did? But the teacher gently reminded her, self-compassion is not about ego. It's about softening. It's about not turning away from your own pain. Think of how you would respond to a dear friend who came to you with the exact same struggles you're facing, the teacher suggested. Would you tell them they're being ridiculous? Would you say they should be stronger? Or would you offer kindness, understanding, a gentle space for their pain? Ruth knew immediately how she would treat a friend, with the same compassion she had offered patients and loved ones throughout her life. "Then why?" the teacher asked. "Do you deserve any less?" That moment marked the beginning of Ruth's healing, not because the anxiety disappeared, but because she no longer fought it alone. She began writing letters to herself, forgiving the parts of her that had been too tired to keep going some days, too overwhelmed to explain, too hurt to reach out. She began to speak to herself with the same gentleness she would offer a friend in pain. And slowly, she began to feel whole again. In Buddhist practice, compassion is seen as a medicine of the heart. And like any medicine, it must be taken regularly, especially when the symptoms of suffering arise. Here are a few gentle ways you can practice self-compassion in your daily life. Speak kindly to yourself, especially when you feel afraid or anxious. Replace "What's wrong with me?" with "This is hard and I'm doing the best I can." Notice the difference in how these words feel in your body. One closes down, creates tension. The other opens, creates space. Place your hand over your heart during anxious moments. It's a physical gesture of care, a reminder that you are not abandoned. Feel the warmth of your own touch, the steady beat of your heart beneath your palm. This simple action activates the body's caregiving system, releasing hormones that can help counter the stress response. Offer yourself the same grace you would offer a dear friend. If you wouldn't say it to them, don't say it to yourself. This guideline can be transformative, helping us recognize how differently we often treat ourselves compared to how we treat others we care about. The next time you notice harsh self-criticism, pause and ask, "Would I say this to someone I love?" Acknowledge your effort. You've survived so much. You're still learning. That matters. Even on days when it feels like you've accomplished little, when anxiety has consumed more energy than you'd like, recognize the courage it takes simply to keep going, to stay present, to continue seeking peace despite the challenges. Compassion doesn't fix everything, but it transforms the way we move through everything. It turns anxiety from a prison into a path that walks alongside your pain, not in opposition to it. It reminds us that difficulty is part of the human experience, not a personal failing or punishment. When we embrace this truth, we begin to feel less alone in our struggles, more connected to the shared vulnerability that unites us all. Thich Nhat Hanh once said, "When you love someone, the best thing you can offer is your presence. How can you love if you are not there?" The same is true for ourselves. If we are not present for our own pain, who will be? If we turn away from our own suffering, abandoning ourselves in the moments we most need care, how can we truly heal? Self-compassion isn't self-pity or self-indulgence. It's not about feeling sorry for yourself or making excuses. It's about meeting your own suffering with the same dignity and care you would offer anyone worthy of respect. And you are worthy of that respect, that care, that compassion, simply because you exist, because you are here, because you are trying. So the next time anxiety knocks at your door, meet it with kindness. Offer it a cup of tea. Sit beside it. Ask what it needs, not so you can fix it, but so you can hold it gently, like a child who's frightened in the dark. Because sometimes all our inner world needs is to know that someone is still listening. And you can be that someone for yourself. Imagine anxiety not as an enemy to be vanquished, but as a messenger carrying important information. Perhaps it's telling you that you need rest. Perhaps it's highlighting a value that matters deeply to you. Perhaps it's revealing a wound that still needs gentle attention. When we meet anxiety with compassion rather than fear or shame, we create the conditions for real understanding, real healing. And remember, this practice of self-compassion is like any other skill. It grows stronger with use. It might feel awkward or even impossible at first, especially if you've spent a lifetime being hard on yourself. But with each small act of kindness toward yourself, you're creating new neural pathways, new habits of mind and heart. You're teaching yourself, moment by moment, that you deserve gentleness, that you are worthy of care, that your suffering matters and merits a compassionate response. As we continue this gentle journey together, allow yourself to rest even more deeply. Feel the weight of your body surrendering to gravity. Notice how your breath has perhaps slowed, becoming even more peaceful and regular. There's nothing you need to do right now except receive these words and rest in this moment. There are moments in life, quiet, piercing moments, when anxiety wraps itself around us so tightly that we begin to believe it defines us. The rapid heartbeat, the spinning thoughts, the tight chest. They start to feel like who we are, rather than something we're experiencing. And in those moments, it's easy to whisper, "I am anxious," instead of seeing anxiety for what it really is. A passing cloud, not the sky itself. Perhaps you know this experience intimately. Perhaps you've lain awake at night, feeling the weight of worry pressing down, thinking, "This is just who I am now. This anxiety is me, and I am it." Perhaps you've begun to organize your life around these feelings, avoiding certain situations, preparing for the worst, living within the boundaries that fear has drawn. Perhaps you've even begun to introduce yourself to others through the lens of this experience. "I'm just an anxious person." But over 2,500 years ago, the Buddha offered a profound teaching that can unhook us from this suffering. A thought so simple, yet so powerful. It can dissolve the grip of anxiety like sunlight dissolving fog. This is not mine. This is not me. This is not who I am. This phrase is not meant as denial. It's meant as liberation. It doesn't push anxiety away with resistance. It gently releases the false belief that you are your suffering. In the Buddhist text, Anatta Lakkhana Sutta, the Buddha teaches about non-self, the idea that we are not the thoughts, feelings, or sensations that move through us. Just as the sky is not the storm, we are not our anxiety. This teaching challenges one of our deepest assumptions, that there is a solid, unchanging self at the center of our experience, a me that remains constant through all of life's changes. We tend to build our identity around certain qualities we believe define us. I am quiet, I am hardworking, I am anxious. But the Buddha invites us to look more closely at this sense of self and ask, is it really so solid? Is it really so unchanging? When we examine our experience with mindful awareness, we begin to see that what we call self is actually a flowing river of sensations, perceptions, thoughts, and consciousness. all constantly changing, arising and passing away. Nothing within this flow can be grasped as a permanent, separate self. And in this realization lies tremendous freedom, for if there is no solid self to protect, defend, or improve, then anxiety loses much of its fuel. When we cling to fear, thinking it is part of our identity, it gains power. But when we say, "This is not me," we remember our true nature, vast, peaceful, unbound. We create space between our awareness and the temporary experiences moving through it, like making room between the banks of a river and the water flowing between them. The river still flows, but we're no longer swept away by every current. Let's bring this into a real-life story. Meet Walter, an 82-year-old widower who had been battling anxiety ever since his wife passed away. He described it as a gnawing feeling in his chest, a sense of dread he couldn't name. It would come and go, but when it was there, it overtook everything, even his sense of self. "It feels like I'm disappearing into the fear," he once said. Walter had been married for 56 years. He and his wife, Eleanor, had built a life so intertwined that many of his daily rhythms, his joys, even his sense of purpose, had been defined by their relationship. They gardened together in the spring, traveled in the summer, read aloud to each other in the evenings. When Eleanor died after a brief illness, Walter didn't just lose his companion. He lost the context that had shaped his identity for over half a century. The anxiety that followed wasn't just grief, though grief was certainly present. It was also a profound disorientation, a loss of moorings. Who was he now without Eleanor? What was the point of planting tomatoes if she wouldn't be there to enjoy them? Why bother taking care of himself if there was no one waiting for him to come home? The questions would spiral, and with them, a physical sensation of panic would rise. Heart racing, palms sweating, chest tight with dread. Walter tried various approaches to manage these feelings. His doctor prescribed medication, which helped take the edge off the physical symptoms, but didn't address the deeper struggle. His children encouraged him to join a grief support group, which provided some comfort, but didn't quite touch the existential nature of his anxiety. He felt increasingly defined by his fear, increasingly convinced that this was simply who he was now, a nervous, diminished version of his former self. One afternoon, at a local mindfulness group, which Walter had joined at his daughter's insistence, the instructor led a meditation based on the Buddha's teaching of non-identification. She guided them through waves of sensations and emotions, softly repeating the phrase, "This is not mine. This is not me. This is not who I am." At first, Walter found himself resistant. How could his grief, his fear, his loneliness not be his? They felt so intimately, painfully real. But as the teacher continued to guide the meditation, inviting participants to observe the changing nature of their experience, how sensations arise and pass, how emotions flow and shift, how thoughts come and go, Walter began to sense something beneath all this movement. A stillness, a spaciousness, a quality of awareness that remained constant even as everything else changed. Walter sat quietly, hand over heart, repeating the words in his mind as the tension in his chest began to loosen. Something shifted, not all at once, but enough that he could breathe a little deeper. He described it later as, like someone opened a window in a stuffy room. Suddenly there was fresh air. Suddenly I could breathe again. In the weeks that followed, Walter began using this practice daily. When anxiety showed up, instead of fighting it or collapsing under it, he would acknowledge it gently. Ah, here it is again. Then breathe and remember, this too will pass. This is not who I am. And each time, the storm grew a little less fierce. The beauty of this teaching is that it doesn't promise the disappearance of anxiety. It offers freedom within it. The Buddha never said we wouldn't experience fear or sorrow, but he did show us how not to suffer unnecessarily because of them. There's an important distinction here between pain and suffering. Pain is the initial experience, the loss, the fear, the discomfort. Suffering is what we add to that experience through resistance, aversion, and identification. When we believe we are our anxiety, we suffer. When we recognize anxiety as a passing experience that we're aware of but not defined by, the suffering begins to dissolve, even if the initial discomfort remains. Let's break the phrase down. This is not mine. This means we don't own the emotion. It's not our possession. It's not something we have to protect or defend. It's just something arising, like a wave on the ocean. Just as we don't claim ownership of the sunset or the sound of rainfall, we can learn to witness anxiety without claiming it as mine. This simple shift from my anxiety to the anxiety that's present right now creates a subtle but powerful distance, enough space to breathe. This is not me. This points to the deepest truth. We are not defined by this emotion. We are not broken. We are not flawed. We are the observer, not the turbulence. Anxiety may be moving through your awareness, just as clouds move across the sky. But it is not who you are. Your essential nature remains clear, spacious, and untroubled, like the sky itself, vast enough to hold any weather without being diminished by it. This is not who I am. Our identity is not made of fear, anxiety, or sorrow. Beneath all of it is our awareness, still, compassionate, steady. This doesn't mean denying the reality of our human experience, with all its complexity and challenge. It means recognizing that at our core, we are more than any temporary state, more than any passing emotion, more than any limited identity we've constructed or accepted. If you try this the next time anxiety visits, simply pause and say, "This is not mine. This is not me. This is not who I am." You may notice something remarkable. The emotion may still be present, but its power to define you begins to fade. You shift from being inside the storm to being the sky that holds it. This practice becomes especially powerful when combined with mindful awareness of the body. Notice where anxiety manifests physically, perhaps as tightness in the chest, a knot in the stomach, tension in the shoulders. Breathe into these areas, offering them gentle attention. Then remind yourself, this sensation is not mine. This sensation is not me. This sensation is not who I am. Feel how this creates space around the physical experience, allowing it to be present without overwhelming you. Similarly, when anxious thoughts arise, worries about the future, ruminations about the past, critical self-judgments, observe them with the same gentle awareness. Note their content without getting caught in their story. Then remember, this thought is not mine, this thought is not me, this thought is not who I am. Watch how the thought begins to lose its sense of solidity and urgency, becoming just one of many passing mental events rather than an urgent truth demanding your belief. Thich Nhat Hanh once said, "Feelings come and go like clouds in a windy sky. Conscious breathing is my anchor." And so it is with this thought. It becomes a lighthouse in the fog, a compass when you're lost in your mind. The older we grow, the more this becomes not just helpful, but essential. Because life brings new uncertainties, unexpected loneliness, changing bodies, and the inevitable goodbyes. But none of these make us less whole. None of them diminish who we truly are. Think of the many changes you've moved through in your lifetime. The child you once were, the young adult finding your way, the middle-aged person navigating responsibilities, the elder you are now. All these versions of yourself have come and gone, yet something essential has remained. Something has witnessed all these changes without itself changing. This witnessing presence, this awareness, is what Buddhist practice points to as your true nature. Not the changing forms of your life, but the consciousness that has known them all. The thought, "This is not mine, this is not me, this is not who I am," isn't just for moments of panic. It's a mantra for liberation, for reclaiming your space, for remembering your essence, peaceful, aware, eternal. Because in truth, you were never your anxiety. You are the calm that remains when the wave recedes. You are the sky that holds every passing cloud. You are still here, as you have always been, beneath all the movement of life. It's one thing to hear a teaching that stirs the heart, that feels true, like a breeze through an open window after a long, stuffy silence. But it's another thing entirely to carry that teaching into daily life, where the dishes pile up, the phone rings, the aches remind you of time's quiet hand, and the heart, oh, the heart, still trembles sometimes. This is where the real work begins, and it is also where the greatest peace can be found. The Buddha was never interested in lofty ideas for their own sake. His wisdom was always meant to be lived, in the marketplace, in the home, on the path through the forest, in the very midst of ordinary human life, with all its complexity and challenge. And so this phrase, "This is not mine, this is not me, this is not who I am," is not just something to remember when meditating or reading spiritual texts. It is something to bring with you into the mess and the miracle of everyday life. It's a practice for the 3 a.m. worry session, for the moment of tension in a difficult conversation, for the flash of fear when you receive concerning news, for the subtle anxiety that colors an otherwise ordinary day. Let's begin simply with a practice that's both gentle and powerful. Something you can do even now as you listen. Something you can return to again and again in moments of need. Find a moment to pause. Sit quietly, or if you're standing, let your feet rest fully on the floor. Let your body be just as it is. No need to force anything. Breathe in slowly and then breathe out, just as slowly. Allow your breath to be like a soft hand on your back, grounding, reassuring. Now, call to mind something that's been causing you anxiety. It could be a small worry that lingers like background noise, or something larger, a decision, a regret, a conversation that still echoes inside you. Don't judge it, just gently hold it in your awareness, like placing a stone in the palm of your hand. As you sit with this feeling, begin to softly say, out loud or in your heart, "This is not mine." Pause. Let that land. Feel how these words begin to loosen the sense of ownership, the tight grip of my problem, my fear, my flaw. This is not me. Pause again. Feel the distance opening between you and the emotion. Not a cold distance of disconnection, but the warm space of perspective. You are the one who's aware of the anxiety, not the anxiety itself. This is not who I am, and breathe. With each repetition, feel the grip loosen. Maybe just a little at first, maybe more. You are not denying the feeling. You are witnessing it without claiming it, without becoming it. Now, imagine your breath is a current of air moving through an open house. It moves through the room of your worry, gently airing it out, not pushing anything away, just making space. The walls of a house are still standing. That house is you, steady, grounded, whole. The anxious thought is just a guest. It might stay for a while, but it doesn't live there, and it doesn't own the keys. This is the power of the practice, simple but profound, gentle but transformative. And here's the beautiful thing. You don't need to be on a meditation cushion or in a retreat center to awaken peace. You need it at 3 a.m. when you wake up with a heaviness in your chest. You need it when your grown child hasn't called in weeks and you start to wonder if you did something wrong. You need it when the ache in your joints reminds you that time is passing and that not everything is in your control. In these moments, don't reach for perfection. Reach for presence. Breathe in. Say gently, "This is not mine." Breathe out. "This is not me." Breathe again. "This is not who I am." Then return to whatever is in front of you. Washing the cup, folding the blanket, petting the dog, listening to the sound of the wind through the trees outside your window. In this way, the practice becomes seamless. Not a separate act, but a way of walking through your life. It becomes a thread of clarity woven into the fabric of your days, a quiet remembrance that returns whenever you need it. You are not your anxiety. You are the awareness in which anxiety appears and dissolves, like morning fog in sunlight. And here's the beautiful part. The more you do this, the more your nervous system begins to understand. You are safe now. You are not trapped in the past. You are not drowning in what ifs. You are right here, breathing, alive, whole. Each time you remember, "This is not mine. This is not me. This is not who I am." You're creating new neural pathways in your brain, new patterns in your nervous system. You're training yourself to respond to anxiety not with more anxiety, but with spacious awareness. Over time, this becomes less of an effort and more of a natural reflex, the mind's innate movement toward freedom. Thich Nhat Hanh once wrote, The present moment is filled with joy and happiness. If you are attentive, you will see it. This phrase, "This is not mine, this is not me, this is not who I am," is a bridge back to that joy, a quiet invitation to remember that the real you has never been broken by fear. So the next time anxiety shows up, don't run, don't resist. Welcome it like a visitor you no longer fear. Offer it a seat, look it in the eye, and remind both of you, this is not who I am. Because who you are is stillness beneath the storm, space within the noise, and love, always love, holding it all. Now let's turn our attention to another powerful teaching from the Buddhist tradition, one that complements and deepens our understanding of non-identification. This is the teaching of impermanence, or anicca in Pali, the language the Buddha spoke. Impermanence points to the truth that everything in our experience is constantly changing, arising, and passing away in an endless flow of transformation. This teaching is not meant to be depressing. On the contrary, it's meant to be liberating. When we truly understand and accept the impermanent nature of all things, including our thoughts, emotions, sensations, and circumstances, we can begin to hold our experiences more lightly. We can learn to dance with life rather than struggling against its natural rhythms. Anxiety often thrives on the illusion of permanence. It whispers, "This feeling will never end," or "I'll always be this way," or "Things will never get better." These thoughts create a sense of being trapped, of enduring suffering without end. But the truth of impermanence offers a different perspective. It reminds us that no state, however intense or uncomfortable, lasts forever. Everything changes. Everything passes. This too, this anxiety, this fear, this pain, will transform, as all things do. Consider the natural world and its endless cycles of change. Day becomes night, becomes day again. Winter yields to spring, yields to summer, yields to fall, in an endless dance of renewal. The moon waxes and wanes, clouds gather and disperse, tides rise and fall. Even mountains, which seem so solid and unchanging, are slowly being shaped by wind and water, gradually transforming over time. Your own body is a testament to impermanence. The cells that make up your physical form are constantly being replaced. The breath moves in and out, never the same breath twice. Sensations arise, linger for a moment, and dissolve. The child you once were has grown into the adult you are now, and that process of change continues with each passing day. Nothing stays the same. Your mind, too, is always changing. Thoughts appear and disappear like bubbles rising to the surface of water. Emotions surge and recede like waves on the shore. Even in the midst of anxiety that feels overwhelming and endless, there are moments, perhaps just flickering instants, when the grip loosens, when the mind clears, when peace is present. These moments are evidence of impermanence at work. The Buddha taught, whatever is subject to arising is subject to ceasing. This simple statement points to a profound truth. Everything that begins must end. Everything that is born must die. Every experience that arises in our awareness must also pass away. This is not a reason for despair, but a reason for hope. It means that difficult states aren't permanent. It means that suffering doesn't last forever. It means that change, the very thing anxiety often fears, is actually our greatest ally. Let me share a story that illustrates this teaching. There was a woman named Maya, 70 years old, who had struggled with insomnia and anxiety for much of her adult life. Night after night, she would lie awake, her mind racing with worries about her health, her finances, her children's well-being. The anxiety seemed to intensify in the darkness, taking on a quality of urgency that felt overwhelming. Maya had tried many approaches over the years: medication, relaxation techniques, even avoiding caffeine and keeping a strict sleep schedule. Some had helped a little, but nothing had fundamentally changed her experience. Night remained a time of struggle, and anxiety remained what she considered a permanent feature of her personality. One day, Maya attended a day-long retreat on Buddhist meditation. The teacher spoke about impermanence and suggested a simple practice: to notice throughout the day the changing nature of all experience. Just watch, the teacher said, how nothing stays the same for long. Sounds come and go, thoughts appear and dissolve, sensations shift and transform. Even strong emotions, if we observe them closely, are in constant flux. Maya decided to try this practice during her next bout of nighttime anxiety. Instead of fighting against the feeling or trying to make it go away, she would simply observe it with curious attention. That night, as she lay awake with the familiar tightness in her chest and racing thoughts, she began to watch her experience moment by moment. She noticed something surprising. The anxiety wasn't a solid, unchanging block of feeling. It pulsed and shifted. Sometimes it intensified, sometimes it eased. Sometimes her thoughts were rapid and frantic. Sometimes they slowed and grew more spacious. Sometimes her chest felt tight. Sometimes the tension moved to her shoulders. Sometimes it momentarily dissolved altogether. As she continued to observe with this gentle attention, Maya began to sense something she had never noticed before. The small gaps between moments of anxiety, the brief spaces where, for just an instant, her system was at rest. These gaps had always been there, but she had been too caught up in the anxiety itself to perceive them. With practice, Maya began to rest her attention more and more in these gaps, not trying to escape the anxiety, but simply noticing the natural breaks in its flow. And gradually, something shifted. The anxiety still came, but it no longer seemed like a solid, permanent state. It became more like weather passing through, sometimes stormy, sometimes calm, but always changing. "I still have anxious nights," Maya told the teacher months later, "but they don't own me anymore. I know they'll pass, just like everything passes." And somehow, that knowledge itself brings peace. This is the liberation that comes from truly understanding impermanence. When we recognize that anxiety, like all states, is subject to change, we can begin to hold it differently. We can learn to ride its waves rather than being submerged by them. We can trust in the natural rhythm of arising and passing away that governs all experience. Try this simple practice. The next time anxiety arises, Rather than immediately trying to make it go away, observe it with gentle curiosity. Notice how it changes from moment to moment. Is it getting stronger or weaker? Is it moving in your body? Are there brief instants when it's not there at all? Just as you might watch clouds moving across the sky, watch the shifting nature of the anxiety itself. As you practice this way, you may begin to discover what Maya discovered, that anxiety is not a solid, permanent state, but a flowing process, constantly changing. And with this discovery comes a profound sense of freedom. If anxiety isn't permanent, you don't need to fear being trapped in it forever. If it's naturally changing all the time, you don't need to struggle so hard to change it. You can begin to trust the process of change itself, the natural wisdom of impermanence. The Buddha expressed this understanding in a simple verse. All conditioned things are impermanent. When one sees this with wisdom, then one becomes disenchanted with suffering. This is the path to purification. To become disenchanted with suffering doesn't mean to become callous or indifferent. It means to see through the spell of believing that suffering is solid and permanent. It means to recognize that even our most difficult experiences are part of a flowing, changing process, and in that recognition, to find a measure of freedom. Closely related to the teaching of impermanence is another core Buddhist concept, non-attachment or letting go. This doesn't mean not caring or becoming emotionally numb. Rather, it refers to holding our experiences, our preferences, even our identities with an open hand rather than a tight grip. Anxiety often involves clinging to certain outcomes, to particular self-images, to the illusion of control. We want things to be a certain way, and when reality threatens to diverge from our expectations, fear arises. We cling to the familiar, the comfortable, the known, and we resist change, uncertainty, the unknown. This clinging creates tension in the body and mind, a sense of bracing against life rather than flowing with it. The Buddha taught that this clinging, this attachment, is the root cause of suffering, not because the things we cling to are inherently bad, but because the nature of clinging itself creates distress. When we hold on too tightly to anything, a relationship, a job, a home, a self-image, a routine, we set ourselves up for suffering because everything is subject to change. The tighter we hold, the more painful it is when change inevitably comes. The practice of non-attachment invites us to loosen our grip, not to let go completely of what matters to us, but to hold it with reverence rather than desperation. To love without clinging, to care without controlling, to live fully without demanding guarantees. Consider the image of a hand. When it's clenched into a fist, it can't receive anything new. It's tight, tense, closed. But when it opens, relaxing the fingers and turning the palm upward, it can both give and receive freely. There's a spaciousness, a readiness, a capacity for engagement without grasping. This open hand represents the quality of non-attachment. Not withdrawal, not indifference, but a way of relating to life with both full engagement and deep allowing. We care, we love, we participate, but we don't cling. We recognize that everything is in flow, that nothing can be permanently possessed or controlled, and we make peace with that fundamental truth. Anxiety often eases when we practice this kind of letting go, when we stop trying to control what cannot be controlled, when we stop demanding certainty in an inherently uncertain world, when we stop clinging to fixed ideas about who we are and how life should be. There's a profound relief in surrendering to the flow of life, in trusting the process rather than trying to manage every outcome. Let me share another story that illustrates this teaching. There was a man named David, 68 years old, who had built a successful career as an architect. His work had been his primary identity for decades. He took pride in his designs, his reputation, his contribution to the built environment. But age and changing market conditions were making it increasingly difficult to secure the kind of projects he was used to handling. As work began to slow down, David experienced intense anxiety, his mind filled with worries. Am I becoming irrelevant? What's my value if I'm not working? Who am I if I'm not an architect? He found himself clinging desperately to his professional identity, fighting against the natural transition that was occurring. The more he clung, the more he suffered. One day, David happened to visit a botanical garden near his home. As he walked among the plants, he noticed an elderly gardener carefully pruning a rose bush. The man was removing not just dead growth, but also some healthy branches and even some buds that hadn't yet flowered. Curious, David asked him why. For the plant to thrive, the gardener explained, it needs to let go of some things, even good things. If it tries to keep every branch, every bud, it spreads its energy too thin. By letting go of some, it allows others to flourish. There's wisdom in this releasing. Something in the gardener's words resonated deeply with David. He began to wonder if his clinging to his full-time professional identity was preventing other aspects of his life from flowering. What might emerge if he loosened his grip on who he thought he needed to be? Over the following months, David began a practice of conscious letting go, not abandoning his work entirely, but releasing his attachment to it as his sole source of identity and worth. He began to explore other interests, photography, volunteering at a community design center, spending more time with his grandchildren. As he allowed himself to let go of who he had been, he began to discover who he might become. The anxiety didn't disappear overnight, but it gradually transformed. The tight knot of fear that had accompanied thoughts of slowing down began to loosen as David opened to new possibilities. I'm still an architect, he told a friend, but I'm also many other things. And I'm discovering that letting go isn't the same as losing. Sometimes it's making room for something new. This is the wisdom of non-attachment, of letting go, not abandoning what matters, but holding it more lightly. not withdrawing from life, but engaging with it more freely, without the constriction of clinging. When we release our tight grip on how things should be, including how we think we should feel, what we think we should be doing, who we think we should be, we create space for life to unfold in ways we might never have imagined. The Buddha taught, in the end, only 3 things matter: how much you loved, how gently you lived, and how gracefully you let go of things not meant for you. This letting go is not a single event, but an ongoing practice, a continual releasing of what no longer serves, what no longer fits, what no longer reflects the truth of who we are becoming. Try this simple practice. Bring to mind something you've been clinging to, perhaps a self-image, an expectation, a particular outcome you're anxious about. Now, imagine holding it in your open hands, not grasping, just supporting. Acknowledge its importance to you, but also your willingness to allow it to change, to evolve, even to leave, if that's what's needed. Feel the spaciousness that comes with this open-handed holding, the breath that flows more freely, the heart that beats more easily. Non-attachment doesn't mean not caring. It means caring without clinging, loving without demanding, living without bracing against change. And in this openness, anxiety often finds less fuel for its fire. Another powerful teaching from the Buddhist tradition that can help transform anxiety is known as the middle way. This refers to finding balance between extremes, walking a path that avoids both indulgence and denial, both grasping and rejection. It's a way of living that's neither too tight nor too loose, neither rigid nor chaotic. Anxiety often pulls us toward extremes. We might swing between obsessive worry and complete avoidance, between overthinking every detail and numbing out entirely, between rigid control and total surrender. The middle way offers a balanced alternative, a path of moderation, of skillful engagement that neither clings nor rejects. The Buddha discovered this middle way through his own experience. After years of ascetic practice, denying his body food and comfort in pursuit of spiritual awakening, he realized that such extreme self-denial was not the path to liberation, but he also knew that the opposite extreme, indulging every desire, avoiding all discomfort, was equally unhelpful. The middle way emerged as a path of balance, taking care of the body's needs without becoming enslaved to its wants, acknowledging emotions without being controlled by them, engaging with life's challenges without being overwhelmed by them. This middle way can be especially helpful when working with anxiety. Instead of fighting against anxious feelings, one extreme, or being completely overtaken by them, the other extreme, we can find a middle path, acknowledging the anxiety's presence without giving it more power than it deserves, attending to its message without believing everything it says, taking appropriate action without letting fear make our decisions. Consider how this might look in daily life. When anxiety arises, instead of immediately trying to make it go away, resistance, or falling into a spiral of panic, indulgence, you might take a middle path. I notice anxiety is present. I'll give it some gentle attention to see if it has something useful to tell me, but I won't assume everything it's saying is true. I'll take reasonable precautions without letting fear restrict my life unnecessarily. This balanced approach applies to self-care as well. The middle way isn't about forcing yourself to meditate for hours if you're exhausted, nor is it about abandoning all practice when it feels challenging. It's about finding what's truly supportive in each moment. Maybe that's 5 minutes of mindful breathing. Maybe it's taking a walk in nature. Maybe it's calling a friend. Maybe it's simply getting enough rest. The middle way is responsive rather than reactive, flexible rather than rigid. The middle way also applies to how we think about spiritual practice itself. Sometimes people approach Buddhism or meditation with the expectation that they'll never feel anxious again, that they'll achieve some perfect state of calm. This expectation itself can become a source of suffering. The middle way suggests a more balanced view. Practice isn't about never feeling anxiety. It's about relating to anxiety differently when it arises. It's not about reaching some perfect state. It's about meeting each moment with greater awareness and compassion. Let me share a story that illustrates this teaching. There was a woman named Helen, 73 years old, who had always been known for her competence and self-sufficiency. She had raised 3 children largely on her own after her husband's early death, had managed a small business successfully, and had prided herself on never needing help from anyone. But as she aged and her health became more fragile, she found herself caught between 2 extremes. On one hand, she resisted accepting any help, pushing herself to maintain complete independence, even when it was no longer reasonable or safe. On the other hand, she found herself overwhelmed with anxiety about becoming a burden to her children, sometimes catastrophizing about ending up completely dependent on them. She swung between stubborn self-reliance and fearful anticipation of total helplessness. A friend who practiced Buddhism suggested that Helen might be looking for a middle way. There's a path between doing everything yourself and doing nothing, the friend said gently. There's a way to accept some help without giving up your autonomy. Both extremes, refusing all support and fearing complete dependence, are causing you suffering. Helen began to explore what this middle way might look like in her life. She started small, allowing her daughter to drive her to medical appointments, while still managing her daily routine independently. She hired a neighborhood teenager to help with yard work, while continuing to tend her beloved flower garden herself. She joined a senior center where she both received support and offered it to others, finding a balance between giving and receiving that felt dignified and sustainable. As Helen practiced this middle way, her anxiety began to ease. She was no longer caught in the false dichotomy of complete independence or complete helplessness. She found a path between these extremes, a path of interdependence, of appropriate self-care combined with thoughtful acceptance of support. "I'm learning," she told her friend, "that asking for help when I need it isn't weakness. And accepting my limitations doesn't mean giving up my strength. There's wisdom in finding the middle path. This is the promise of the middle way, not perfection, but balance. Not the absence of challenges, but a more skillful way of meeting them. Not a life without anxiety, but a relationship with anxiety that doesn't swing between denial and overwhelm. The middle way offers a path of wisdom that acknowledges reality while not being defined by it, that takes appropriate action without being driven by fear. The Buddha described this middle way as avoiding two extremes: sensual indulgence, which is low, common, worldly, ignoble, and not beneficial, and self-mortification, which is painful, ignoble, and not beneficial. Instead, he taught a middle way that gives rise to vision, that gives rise to knowledge, that leads to peace, to direct knowledge, to enlightenment. In your own relationship with anxiety, consider how you might find this middle way. Where are you perhaps too rigid, too controlling, too resistant to what is? Where might you be too passive, too overwhelmed, too identified with fear? The middle way invites balance, neither fighting against anxiety nor surrendering to it, but meeting it with clear awareness and compassionate response. This balance isn't static. It's a dynamic equilibrium that shifts with changing conditions, like a skilled sailor adjusting the sails in response to the wind. Sometimes the middle way means taking decisive action. Sometimes it means patient observation. Sometimes it means reaching out for support. Sometimes it means drawing on your inner resources. The wisdom lies in discerning what's needed in each unique moment, rather than applying a rigid formula. As we deepen our exploration of Buddhist wisdom for working with anxiety, let's turn to another powerful teaching: the recognition of interconnectedness, or what's sometimes called interbeing. This teaching points to the profound truth that nothing exists in isolation. Everything is connected to everything else, arising together in a vast web of mutual dependence. Anxiety often thrives on a sense of isolation. When we're caught in fear, we may feel cut off from others, alone with our struggles, separate from the flow of life. We may believe that our pain is uniquely ours, that no one else could understand, that we must face our fears in isolation. This sense of separation itself intensifies suffering, adding loneliness to anxiety, disconnection to fear. But the Buddha's teaching on interconnectedness offers a different perspective. It reminds us that we are never truly alone, that our lives are woven together with countless others, that our very existence depends on an infinite network of relationships. From the air we breathe to the food we eat, from the words we speak to the thoughts we think, everything arises in connection, in relationship, in mutual dependence. When we recognize this truth of interconnectedness, anxiety begins to shift. The sense of being a separate self facing overwhelming challenges loosens, replaced by an awareness of being held in the web of life, supported by countless seen and unseen connections. We begin to feel less isolated in our struggles, more attuned to the shared nature of human experience. Thich Nhat Hanh, the Vietnamese Zen master who brought mindfulness practices to many in the West, coined the term interbeing to describe this profound interconnection. He would often use the example of a sheet of paper to illustrate the concept. If you are a poet, you will see clearly that there is a cloud floating in this sheet of paper. Without a cloud, there will be no rain. Without rain, the trees cannot grow, and without trees, we cannot make paper. He would continue tracing these connections: the logger who cut the tree, the wheat that became bread to feed the logger, the sun that nurtured the wheat, and so on in an endless web of relationships. Nothing exists by itself. Everything inter-is. This recognition can be deeply comforting when anxiety arises. Instead of facing fear as an isolated individual, we can remember our place in the larger whole, our connection to all life. We can draw strength from these connections, finding support not just in human relationships, but in our fundamental belonging to the earth, to the elements, to the vast flow of life itself. Let me share a story that illustrates this teaching. There was a man named Robert, 70 years old, who lived alone in a small apartment after his wife's death. His adult children lived in distant cities, and though they called regularly, he spent most of his days in solitude. Gradually, a pervasive anxiety began to color his experience. Not acute panic, but a constant low-level dread, a sense of vulnerability and isolation that made even simple tasks feel overwhelming. One spring morning, unable to bear the confines of his apartment any longer, Robert went to a nearby park. He sat on a bench, watching people pass, families with children, joggers, dog walkers, other elderly people enjoying the sunshine. As he sat there, something began to shift in his awareness. He noticed the way the trees moved in the wind, the same wind that touched his skin. He watched birds gathering twigs for nests, squirrels darting among the roots. He observed how people nodded to each other as they passed, small acknowledgements of shared space. A leaf fell from a tree above and landed on his shoe. Robert picked it up, examining its intricate pattern of veins, its connection to the branch now severed but still evident in its form. Something about this leaf, its journey from seed to tree to ground, its participation in the cycles of growth and decay, spoke to him of a belonging deeper than his momentary isolation. The next day, Robert returned to the park, and the day after that. He began bringing breadcrumbs for the birds, exchanging greetings with the regular morning walkers. He noticed how his mood lightened with these small connections. The anxiety didn't disappear entirely, but it no longer dominated his experience. It became just one strand in a richer tapestry of awareness, an awareness increasingly attuned to his place in the interconnected web of life. This shift in perspective, from isolated individual to participant in a vast web of relationships, is at the heart of the Buddhist teaching on interconnectedness. It doesn't deny the reality of our personal experience, including anxiety when it arises, but it places that experience in a larger context, reminding us that we are never truly alone, never completely separate from the flow of life. Try this simple practice. The next time anxiety arises, take a moment to become aware of the many connections that support your existence in this very moment. Feel the ground beneath you, supporting your weight. Notice the air moving in and out of your lungs, connecting you to all breathing beings. Be aware of the temperature of the room, the sounds around you, the light that allows you to see. Recognize that even in a moment of fear, you are held in a vast network of relationships, both seen and unseen. Then, if you wish, extend this awareness to include human connection. Think of someone who cares about you, a friend, a family member, a teacher, a helper. Imagine their presence with you, their wish for your well-being. Remember that across the world, countless others are also experiencing anxiety in this moment. You are not alone in your struggle. Feel your connection to this shared human experience. As this awareness of interconnection deepens, you may notice the anxiety itself beginning to shift. Not necessarily disappearing, but perhaps softening, becoming less solid, less all-encompassing. The tight knot of fear begins to loosen as you remember your place in the larger whole, your belonging to the vast family of life. The Buddha expressed this understanding of interconnectedness in the teaching of dependent origination, which points to how all phenomena arise in dependence on multiple causes and conditions. Nothing exists independently. Everything emerges from a complex web of relationships and influences. This includes our mental and emotional states. They too arise from conditions, not from some inherent fixed self. When we apply this understanding to anxiety, we begin to see it not as a solid, permanent part of who we are, but as a temporary state arising from certain conditions, perhaps physical tiredness, or unprocessed emotions, or challenging circumstances, or habitual thought patterns. And just as conditions can give rise to anxiety, different conditions can give rise to peace, to clarity, to ease. This recognition is empowering. It means we're not stuck with anxiety as an inherent trait or permanent condition. By working skillfully with conditions, adjusting our environment, caring for our physical needs, cultivating supportive relationships, practicing mindfulness and compassion, we can create the causes for greater well-being to arise. Not through force or control, but through wise attention to the conditions that support peace rather than distress. Interconnection also reminds us that we can draw on resources beyond our individual selves when facing anxiety. We can lean on the support of others, friends, family, teachers, healthcare providers. We can find comfort in nature, in art, in spiritual traditions. We can remember that we're part of a long lineage of humans who have faced fear and found ways to work with it wisely. We don't have to figure it all out alone. Another powerful Buddhist teaching that can transform our relationship with anxiety is the cultivation of the 4 Brahma Viharas, or divine abodes, qualities of heart that create a sense of spaciousness and freedom. These are loving-kindness, metta, compassion, karuna, appreciative joy, mudita, and equanimity, upekkha. These heart qualities act as natural antidotes to the constriction of anxiety. Where anxiety tightens, these qualities open. Where fear separates, these qualities connect. Where worry creates turbulence, these qualities bring balance. By intentionally cultivating these states, we create inner conditions less hospitable to anxiety and more supportive of peace. Let's explore these 4 heart qualities more deeply, with specific practices for each that you can incorporate into your daily life to work with anxiety. Loving kindness, or metta, can be cultivated through a simple yet profound meditation practice. Find a comfortable position, either sitting or lying down. Place a hand over your heart if that feels supportive. Begin by offering phrases of goodwill to yourself. May I be safe. May I be healthy. May I be at ease. May I be peaceful. Notice any resistance that arises, any voice that says you don't deserve this kindness, or that this practice is selfish, or that it won't help. This resistance itself is worth meeting with gentle awareness. It often reveals where we've internalized harsh judgments, where we've learned to deny ourselves the very care we freely offer others. Simply noting this resistance, without judgment, and continuing with the practice is itself a profound act of healing. As you repeat these phrases, allow yourself to feel the intention behind them. This isn't about forcing positive emotions or denying difficult ones. It's about sincerely wishing yourself well, just as you would wish a dear friend well. Sometimes it helps to imagine yourself as a child, or to remember a time when you were struggling and to offer loving kindness to that vulnerable self. After a few minutes of directing loving kindness toward yourself, you can expand the circle to include others, perhaps starting with someone who naturally evokes feelings of love and gratitude in you. May you be safe. May you be healthy. May you be at ease. May you be peaceful. Feel how the heart naturally opens toward this person, how the wish for their well-being flows without effort. Then, if you wish, expand further to include neutral people, those you neither particularly like nor dislike. Difficult people, those with whom you have tension or conflict. And finally, all beings everywhere. May all beings be safe. May all beings be healthy. May all beings be at ease. May all beings be peaceful. This gradual expansion helps cultivate a sense of connection, of shared humanity, that directly counters anxiety's isolating effects. It reminds us that our wish for happiness, for safety, for peace is universal, shared by all conscious beings. And in this recognition, the boundaries between self and other begin to soften. A 72-year-old man named James had practiced this loving-kindness meditation daily for several months. The most surprising thing, he reported, was how it changed my relationship with strangers. I used to feel vaguely threatened by people I didn't know. I'd cross the street to avoid groups of teenagers. I'd feel anxious in crowded places. But after practicing metta, I started to look at unfamiliar faces and automatically think, "May you be happy," instead of seeing potential threats. It was like the world transformed from a dangerous place into a community of people just trying to be okay, just like me. Compassion, or karuna, builds on the foundation of loving-kindness but responds specifically to suffering, our own and others. Where anxiety tends to contract around pain, creating resistance and fear, compassion opens toward difficulty with warmth and care. It acknowledges suffering without either minimizing it or becoming overwhelmed by it. A simple compassion practice begins with mindful awareness of your own experience. When anxiety arises, try placing a hand on your heart or another soothing spot on your body. Acknowledge the difficulty with gentle words. This is a moment of suffering. This is hard. Then offer yourself compassion. May I be kind to myself in this difficult time. May this suffering ease. The physical touch combined with kind words activates your body's caregiving system, releasing hormones like oxytocin that help counter the stress response. It's a way of becoming your own good friend, your own compassionate companion, especially in moments when anxiety feels isolating. As with loving kindness, you can extend this compassion practice to others, recognizing suffering in those around you and offering the sincere wish for that suffering to ease. This doesn't mean you have to fix anyone's problems or take on their emotional burdens. It simply means acknowledging pain with an open heart, rather than turning away in fear or discomfort. Sarah, a 68-year-old retired teacher, found that compassion practice transformed her relationship with chronic pain and the anxiety it triggered. "I used to fight against the pain," she said. "I'd get angry at my body, frustrated with my limitations, terrified that it would never end. But learning to meet the pain with compassion, to say, 'This is really hard, may I be kind to myself right now,' changed everything. The pain is still there, but my relationship with it is different. There's less fear, less struggle, and strangely, that often means less pain too." Appreciative joy, or mudita, is sometimes translated as sympathetic joy or empathetic joy, the capacity to take genuine delight in good fortune, happiness, and beauty, whether in your own experience or others. This quality directly counters anxiety's tendency to focus on what's wrong, what's lacking, what's threatening. It rebalances our attention, ensuring that we notice and appreciate what's well in our lives, not just what's challenging. To cultivate appreciative joy, try this simple practice. Each night before sleep, recall 3 moments from the day that brought even small happiness or satisfaction. Perhaps the taste of a good meal, a kind interaction with a stranger, a moment of beauty in nature, the accomplishment of a task, or the simple pleasure of a hot shower. Let yourself savor these moments, feeling the positive emotion associated with them. This isn't about forcing positivity or denying difficulties. It's about making sure your attention includes the whole of your experience, not just the anxious parts. You can extend this practice to include joy at others' happiness as well. When you witness someone else's good fortune, success, or pleasure, whether a friend, family member, or stranger, consciously cultivate gladness for them. How wonderful that they're experiencing this happiness. May it continue and grow. This practice helps counter tendencies toward envy or comparison that can fuel anxiety and isolation. Michael, a 75-year-old man who had struggled with anxiety for decades, found that practicing appreciative joy gradually shifted his default attention. I used to immediately notice what was wrong in any situation, he said. The one cloud in an otherwise blue sky. The one thing that didn't go according to plan in an otherwise good day. My mind was like a negativity magnet. Learning to intentionally notice and appreciate good things, even tiny things like the warmth of sunlight on my face or the sound of birds in the morning, started to rewire that habit. Now I still notice problems, but I also naturally notice beauty, kindness, things to be grateful for, and that broader perspective makes anxiety less overwhelming. Equanimity, or upekkha, is perhaps the subtlest of the 4 heart qualities, but also one of the most powerful for working with anxiety. It's a balanced state of mind that remains steady amid life's inevitable ups and downs, neither elated by pleasant experiences nor devastated by unpleasant ones, neither clinging to what we want nor rejecting what we don't want. It's often described as a vast, unshakable peace that can hold all experience with equal care and clarity. Equanimity doesn't mean indifference or detachment from life. Rather, it's a profound engagement that isn't swept away by reactivity. It allows us to be fully present with whatever arises without being controlled by it. For anxiety, which often involves being overwhelmed by thoughts and feelings, equanimity offers a steady center, a place of balance amid emotional storms. A simple equanimity practice involves reflecting on the universal nature of change and the limits of personal control. You might silently repeat phrases like, "All beings experience both pleasure and pain, according to causes and conditions. I am not exempt from this universal truth. May I find peace amid these changing circumstances." Another approach is to practice equanimity in daily life by intentionally working with small disappointments and pleasures. When something doesn't go your way, perhaps a plan changes or something breaks, see if you can meet it with a balanced mind. This is unpleasant, but it's part of life. I can respond wisely without being overwhelmed. Similarly, when something pleasant occurs, enjoy it fully while recognizing its impermanent nature. This is delightful, and like all experiences, it too will pass. I can appreciate it without clinging to it. Eleanor, an 81-year-old woman, found that equanimity practice transformed her relationship with aging and the anxiety it had triggered. "I used to panic about every new ache, every sign of getting older," she said. "But practicing equanimity has helped me see these changes as part of the natural flow of life, not personal catastrophes. There's a kind of spaciousness now, a perspective that can hold both the difficulties and the ongoing beauty of life as it is. I still take care of myself, but without the frantic fear that used to exhaust me." Together, these 4 heart qualities, loving kindness, compassion, appreciative joy, and equanimity, create an inner environment less conducive to anxiety's tight grip. They don't fight against fear directly, but they offer alternatives to its constriction, its tunnel vision, its sense of isolation. They remind us of our capacity for warmth, for care, for delight, for balance, even in difficult moments. Try incorporating these qualities into your daily life, not just in formal meditation, but in small moments throughout the day. When anxiety arises, see which quality might be most helpful in that particular moment. Sometimes it's the warmth of loving kindness, sometimes the tenderness of compassion, sometimes the broadening of appreciative joy, sometimes the steadiness of equanimity. With practice, these qualities become more readily available when needed, offering natural antidotes to fear's constriction. The Buddha taught that these four heart qualities are not just practices, but our true nature, the mind's natural state when not clouded by confusion or reactivity. By cultivating them, we're not adding something foreign to our experience. We're remembering what's already there, beneath the surface turbulence of anxiety and other difficult emotions. Now let's turn to one more powerful Buddhist teaching that can help transform anxiety: the practice of taking refuge. In Buddhist tradition, practitioners take refuge in three sources of support and guidance: the Buddha, representing awakened awareness; the Dharma, the teachings and truth; and the Sangha, the community of practitioners. This act of taking refuge isn't about blind faith or dependency. It's about connecting with sources of wisdom and support beyond our individual, limited perspective. When anxiety arises, it often creates a sense of being adrift, unmoored, without solid ground. Taking refuge reminds us that we're not alone in our struggles, that we can lean on wisdom greater than our momentary fears, that we're part of a long tradition of humans who have faced similar challenges and found paths through them. But what does it mean to take refuge in the context of anxiety? It doesn't mean these sources of support will magically make anxiety disappear. Rather, they offer perspective, guidance, and companionship as we learn to work with fear more wisely. Taking refuge in the Buddha means remembering our own capacity for awareness, for clarity, for wakefulness. Even in moments of intense anxiety, there's a part of us that's able to witness the experience without being completely overwhelmed by it. This witnessing awareness, this clarity that knows anxiety is present without being identical to the anxiety, is what Buddhist tradition points to as our Buddha nature, our inherent capacity for awakened presence. When caught in fear, we can take refuge in this awareness, remembering that we are more than our momentary emotional state. We can rest in the space that knows anxiety rather than being wholly identified with the anxiety itself. This shift in perspective from "I am anxious" to "I am aware of anxiety" creates crucial breathing room, a sense of having ground under our feet, even in turbulent emotional weather. Taking refuge in the Dharma means drawing on teachings and practices that offer guidance for working with difficult states. The word Dharma can refer both to the Buddha's explicit teachings and to the underlying truth or reality they point to. When anxiety arises, we can take refuge in specific practices like mindfulness of breathing, loving-kindness meditation, or the contemplation of impermanence that have helped countless practitioners before us navigate similar terrain. we can also take refuge in the deeper truths these practices reveal, that all experiences, including anxiety, are impermanent, that we are not isolated individuals but interconnected with all life, that our true nature is awareness itself, not the temporary states moving through it. These understandings offer perspective when anxiety threatens to narrow our view to immediate fear. Taking refuge in the Sangha means remembering our connection to others walking a similar path. Traditionally, this referred to the community of monks and nuns, but in a broader sense, it includes all who are sincerely engaged in the work of awakening, of living with greater awareness and compassion. When anxiety arises, we can take refuge in knowing we're not alone in our struggles, that countless others have faced similar fears and found ways through them. This sense of shared journey can be profoundly comforting. It reminds us that anxiety is not a personal failing, but part of the human experience, that we don't have to figure everything out alone, that we can learn from others who have walked this path before us, whether through formal spiritual community, friends who share similar values, or even books and teachings that connect us to the wisdom of others. The refuge of Sangha reminds us that we're part of something larger than our individual struggles. Let me share a story that illustrates the power of taking refuge. There was a woman named Claire, 65 years old, who had practiced meditation for many years. Despite her practice, she still experienced periods of anxiety, particularly around health concerns. During one such period, following an unclear medical test result, her anxiety became especially intense, disrupting her sleep, dominating her thoughts, creating a sense of vulnerability and fear. One sleepless night, sitting on the edge of her bed with her heart racing, Claire remembered the practice of taking refuge. She closed her eyes and silently recited the traditional refuge prayer. I take refuge in the Buddha. I take refuge in the Dharma. I take refuge in the Sangha. As she spoke these words, she felt herself connecting to something beyond her immediate fear. Taking refuge in the Buddha, she became aware of the consciousness that was noticing the anxiety, the spacious awareness that was larger than this temporary state. Taking refuge in the Dharma, she remembered the teaching of impermanence, that this difficult moment, like all moments, would pass, and the teaching of compassion, that she could hold her fear with kindness rather than resistance. Taking refuge in the Sangha, she thought of her meditation group, of the teacher who had guided her practice, of countless others throughout time who had faced fear and found their way through it. The anxiety didn't disappear, but Claire felt less alone with it, less defined by it. She sensed herself as part of something larger, a lineage of practice, a community of seekers, a flow of life that contained but wasn't limited to this moment of fear. From this broader perspective, the anxiety became more manageable, less overwhelming. She was able to return to bed and, eventually, to sleep. The next day, Claire called her meditation teacher to share her experience. What I realized, she said, is that taking refuge isn't about escaping difficulty. It's about finding firm ground within it, about remembering resources that are always available, even when fear is strong. The teacher nodded. That's exactly right. Taking refuge isn't hiding from the storm. It's finding shelter within it. And sometimes that shelter is as simple as remembering you're not alone, that there's wisdom to guide you, that your awareness is larger than any temporary state moving through it. You can practice taking refuge in your own way, adapting it to what feels meaningful and supportive for you. It might be a formal recitation, like Claire's, or a simpler remembrance of the resources available to you, both internal, your own capacity for awareness, for kindness, for perspective, and external, teachings that have helped you, people who support your journey, traditions that offer guidance. The key is recognizing that when anxiety arises, you don't have to face it in isolation, relying solely on your own resources in that vulnerable moment. You can draw on wisdom larger than your individual perspective, on practices tested by time, on the companionship of others walking a similar path. This recognition itself helps ease anxiety's grip, reminding you that you're part of something larger than your momentary fears. Taking refuge doesn't mean anxiety will never arise. It means you have support when it does. It means you're not starting from scratch each time fear appears. It means you're connected to sources of wisdom and guidance that can help you navigate even the most challenging emotional terrain with greater skill and ease. In the gentle silence that follows taking refuge, allow yourself to rest in the simplicity of this moment. Feel your body supported, your breath flowing naturally, your awareness like the sky holding all experience with spaciousness and care. This awareness is always available to you, a refuge in itself, clear, open, untroubled by the temporary weather of thoughts and emotions. As we come to the end of this exploration of Buddhist teachings for anxiety, remember that these practices are not about achieving some perfect state of calm. They're about meeting life as it is, with all its complexity and challenge, with greater wisdom and compassion. They're about finding freedom not from difficult emotions, but within them, discovering that peace is possible even when anxiety is present. The path is not linear. There will be times when these practices flow easily, when awareness feels spacious and clear. There will be other times when anxiety feels overwhelming, when it's hard to remember these teachings in the heat of fear. This too is part of the path. The Buddha never promised that practice would be smooth or that progress would be steady. He simply offered tools for meeting whatever arises with greater skill and care. What matters is not perfection, but intention, the sincere wish to understand your own mind, to ease suffering, to live with greater awareness and compassion. Each time you remember to breathe with anxiety rather than fighting it, each time you offer yourself kindness in a difficult moment, each time you recognize a thought as just a thought, these are victories. These are moments of awakening. The Buddhist teacher Pema Chodron, known for her accessible teachings on working with difficult emotions, writes, "We think that the point is to pass the test or overcome the problem. But the truth is that things don't really get solved. They come together and they fall apart. Then they come together again and fall apart again. It's just like that. The healing comes from letting there be room for all of this to happen. Room for grief, for relief, for misery, for joy." This perspective invites us to make peace with the natural cycles of experience. the coming and going of all states, including anxiety. Rather than seeing anxiety as a problem to be permanently eliminated, we can learn to create space for it when it arises, to hold it with wisdom and care, to let it be part of the ever-changing weather of our human experience. And in that spaciousness, that acceptance, we often find the anxiety naturally begins to ease, not because we forced it away, but because we stopped fighting it. As you move forward from this teaching, I invite you to carry these practices lightly. Don't turn them into another source of pressure or expectation. Don't use them to judge yourself when anxiety arises. Instead, let them be offerings, gentle reminders of your capacity for awareness, for compassion, for peace even in difficult moments. Start small. Perhaps choose just one practice that resonates with you. The recognition, this is not me, the awareness of impermanence, the offering of compassion to your own suffering. Work with it daily, in small ways, bringing it to ordinary moments before applying it to intense anxiety. Like learning any skill, these practices grow stronger with use. Be patient with yourself. Be gentle. Remember that each moment of practice, however brief, plants seeds that will bear fruit in time. And remember that you're not alone on this path. From the Buddha's time to the present day, countless practitioners have worked with anxiety, with fear, with all the challenges of being human. Their footsteps are visible on the path ahead of you, their wisdom available to guide you, their companionship a reminder that while your experience is unique, the basic human struggles are shared. You are part of a vast, invisible community of seekers, those who have gone before, those who practice alongside you now, those who will come after. In this connection, there is strength. In this belonging, there is comfort. If you've stayed with me through this exploration, I want to acknowledge the attention, the care, the sincerity you've brought to this journey. The very fact that you're listening, that you're open to these teachings, that you're willing to look at anxiety with curiosity rather than just trying to escape it. This itself is a profound act of courage and wisdom. It's the beginning of transformation. The Buddha is said to have described his teaching as being like a finger pointing to the moon. The words themselves are not the truth, but they point toward a truth that can be directly experienced. My words tonight have been just such a pointing. The real discovery, the real transformation, happens in your own direct experience as you work with these practices in your daily life. Trust that experience. Let it be your guide. Let it reveal the wisdom that's already within you, waiting to be uncovered. Now, as we prepare to transition into even deeper rest, I invite you to simply breathe. Feel the gentle rhythm of your inhale and exhale, the subtle rising and falling of your chest. Notice the small pause at the end of each exhale, a moment of perfect stillness, of natural peace. Your breath has been with you since your first moment in this world, and it will be with you until your last. It's a constant companion, a built-in meditation object, always available as an anchor to the present moment. Allow your attention to rest in this simple awareness of breathing, not controlling the breath, not trying to make it deeper or slower, just noticing it as it is. If your mind wanders into thoughts of the past or future, into planning or remembering, into any of the thousands of places minds naturally go, simply notice that wandering and gently return your attention to the breath. Not with judgment, not with frustration, but with the same patient kindness you might show a child who has wandered off a path. Ah, there you are. Come back now. This simplicity, this returning to breath, to body, to present moment, is the heart of Buddhist practice. All the teachings we've explored tonight come down to this: the capacity to be here, to be aware, to meet each moment with clarity and care. This capacity is your birthright. It belongs to you, regardless of age, circumstance, or history. It remains available even when anxiety is present, even when life is challenging, even when the path seems unclear. As the ancient Buddhist text, the Dhammapada, reminds us, the thought manifests as the word manifests as the deed develops into habit, and the habit hardens into character. So watch the thought and its ways with care. Each time you remember to meet anxiety with awareness rather than resistance, with compassion rather than judgment, you're creating new patterns in your mind and heart. You're cultivating habits of peace that will, with time and practice, become your natural response to difficulty. Now, as we come to the end of this teaching, I invite you to rest even more deeply. Let your body become heavy and comfortable. Let your breath find its own natural rhythm. Let your mind settle, like a jar of water that, left undisturbed, gradually becomes clear as the sediment sinks to the bottom. If you're listening as you prepare for sleep, know that these teachings will continue to work in you even as you rest. The seeds of awareness, of compassion, of peace that have been planted tonight will grow in their own time, in their own way. Trust this process. Allow it to unfold naturally, without forcing, without striving. And if anxiety should visit you in the night, as it sometimes does, emerge from the depths when the conscious mind relaxes its guard, remember that you have tools to work with it wisely. Remember that you can breathe with it rather than fighting it. Remember that you can offer it kindness rather than resistance. Remember that you can recognize it as a temporary visitor rather than a permanent resident of your mind and heart. In the words of the Buddha, peace comes from within. Do not seek it without. This peace is your true nature, not something to be achieved or earned, but something to be uncovered, remembered, returned to. It's present even now, beneath the surface movements of thought and emotion, like the deep stillness at the bottom of a lake, undisturbed by the waves on the surface. Rest in this peace. Trust this peace. Allow it to hold you, to heal you, to guide you home to your own true nature, spacious, aware, at ease. Rest in this knowing. Rest in this peace. Rest in the natural clarity that has been with you all along, behind the veil of thoughts and emotions, beneath the surface turbulence of daily life. This clarity is your birthright, your true home, the ground of your being. As you continue to rest, the boundaries between wakefulness and sleep may begin to blur. This borderland state is honored in Buddhist traditions as a special opportunity for insight, a time when the conceptual mind loosens its grip and more subtle awareness can emerge. Allow yourself to drift in this in-between space, neither grasping at wakefulness nor pursuing sleep, simply present with whatever arises. The ancient yogis spoke of yoga nidra, yogic sleep, a state of conscious rest where the body sleeps but awareness remains clear and present. Whether you drift into deep sleep or remain in this conscious resting, know that the awareness we've been cultivating continues to work in you, continues to heal, continues to reveal your true nature. Every breath you take is a reminder of the constant flow of life through you, the giving and receiving that connects you to all living beings, to the earth itself. Every inhale receives life-giving oxygen. Every exhale releases what is no longer needed. This rhythm has sustained you from your first moment and will continue until your last. It requires no effort, no management, no control. Only your grateful participation in the miracle of being alive. Feel how this breath moves, not just in your lungs, but throughout your entire body, refreshing cells, energizing tissues, supporting life at the most fundamental level. This breath is both utterly ordinary and completely miraculous. A constant reminder of your place in the web of life, your participation in the vast exchange that sustains all beings. As you rest in this awareness of breath, allow any remaining tension in your body to soften and release. Perhaps scan your body slowly from head to toe, offering gentle attention to each area, inviting relaxation wherever you find holding or tightness. The body knows how to release, how to heal, how to return to its natural state of ease if we simply give it permission, if we simply get out of its way. Notice the weight of your body being fully supported by whatever surface you're resting on. Feel the points of contact, the back of your head, your shoulders, your hips, your legs, and allow your weight to surrender completely to this support. There's nothing to hold up, nothing to manage, nothing to control. Your body can be completely at ease, completely at rest. As the body relaxes more deeply, you may notice subtle sensations that were previously obscured by tension or movement. The gentle pulsing of blood in your fingertips, the slight expansion and contraction of your ribcage with each breath, the warmth or coolness of air on your skin. These delicate perceptions are available when the mind grows quiet, when awareness becomes more refined, when we settle into the simplicity of just being. Buddhist practice invites us into this intimate relationship with direct experience, not filtered through concepts or judgments, not diluted by distraction or resistance, but met directly, freshly, with the clear light of awareness. This is the essence of mindfulness. This direct, non-conceptual knowing of experience as it unfolds moment by moment. Even as the body grows more still and the mind more quiet, this awareness remains clear, spacious, undimmed. Unlike other faculties that tire and need rest, awareness itself never grows weary, never needs refreshment. It is always present, always available, the constant background of all experience. We may lose touch with it when caught in the grip of strong emotions or racing thoughts, but it never leaves us. It is our true nature, our Buddha mind. Rest in this awareness. Let it hold your experience like a vast clear sky holds clouds and birds and the light of stars. Nothing to do, nothing to manage, nothing to improve. Just this moment, just as it is, complete and perfect in its suchness, its tathata, as the Buddha called it. If thoughts continue to arise, perhaps reflections on the teachings you've heard, perhaps concerns about tomorrow, perhaps remnants of the day's activities, simply notice them without getting caught in their stories. See how they arise from nowhere, linger for a moment, and dissolve back into silence. You don't need to follow them. You don't need to complete them. You don't need to do anything with them at all. Just this noticing, this gentle awareness of their coming and going, is enough. This is the practice in its most essential form. Not manipulating experience, not trying to achieve special states, but simply being present with what is, moment by moment, with clarity and kindness. This practice doesn't require special conditions or formal settings. It can be carried into every aspect of life, into daily activities, into relationships, into challenges and joys alike. It becomes a way of being, not just a thing we do. As the Buddha taught, the past is already gone. The future is not yet here. There is only one moment for you to live, and that is the present moment. This teaching isn't meant to disconnect us from memory or foresight, but to remind us that life only ever happens now. This breath, this sensation, this awareness, this is where life is directly experienced, where peace is discovered, where wisdom unfolds. The great Tibetan master Padmasambhava taught, "The nature of mind is the unity of awareness and emptiness." Awareness is the knowing quality of mind, clear, cognizant, luminous. Emptiness is its open, spacious, ungraspable nature, free from fixed identity, unbounded by concepts or categories. Together, they describe our true nature, simultaneously aware and open, present and free, engaged and unattached. This unity of awareness and emptiness is not something we need to create or achieve. It's already the case, already the fundamental nature of mind. Our practice is simply to recognize it, to rest in it, to allow it to reveal itself as what we've always been beneath the surface movements of thought and emotion. As you continue to rest in this natural awareness, you may notice subtle shifts in your experience, perhaps moments of unusual clarity, perhaps a sense of boundaries softening, perhaps glimpses of a peace deeper than the absence of disturbance. These are not special achievements, but natural emergences, when the mind is allowed to settle into its own nature without interference or manipulation. Throughout Buddhist traditions, sleep is recognized as an opportunity for practice, for insight, for healing. The Tibetan tradition in particular offers rich teachings on dream yoga and sleep yoga, practices that invite us to maintain awareness through the transitions between waking and sleeping, to recognize the dreamlike nature of all experience, to discover the luminous awareness that continues even as the body and conceptual mind rest. Whether you're approaching sleep or simply resting in deep relaxation, know that the awareness we've been cultivating continues to work in you. The seeds of mindfulness, of compassion, of wisdom that have been planted in your consciousness will continue to grow, to deepen, to bear fruit in their own time and way. Trust this process. Allow it to unfold naturally, without forcing, without striving. The Zen tradition speaks of effortless effort, or non-doing doing, a way of engaging with practice that doesn't rely on willpower or control, but on allowing natural wisdom to emerge when we get out of our own way, when we release the habitual patterns that obscure our true nature. As we come to the end of this exploration of Buddhist teachings for working with anxiety, I want to acknowledge the attention, the openness, the sincerity you've brought to this journey. The very fact that you're listening, that you're willing to look at anxiety with curiosity rather than just trying to escape it, is itself a profound act of courage and wisdom. This willingness to be present with what is difficult, to learn from it rather than just react to it, is the beginning of real transformation. Remember that the path is not linear. There will be times when these practices flow easily, when awareness feels spacious and clear, when peace seems natural and accessible. There will be other times when anxiety feels overwhelming, when it's hard to remember these teachings in the heat of fear, when old patterns reassert themselves. This too is part of the path. The Buddha never promised that practice would be smooth or that progress would be steady. He simply offered tools for meeting whatever arises with greater skill and care. What matters is not perfection, but intention. The sincere wish to understand your own mind, to ease suffering, to live with greater awareness and compassion. Each time you remember to breathe with anxiety rather than fight in it, each time you offer yourself kindness in a difficult moment, each time you recognize a thought as just a thought, these are victories. These are moments of awakening. As the Tibetan Buddhist teacher Mingyur Rinpoche, who himself has experienced panic attacks, writes, "Awareness is the basis, or what you might call the support, of the mind. It is steady and unchanging, like the pole to which the flag of ordinary consciousness is attached. When we recognize and become grounded in awareness of awareness, the wind of emotion may still blow. But instead of being carried away by the wind, we turn our attention inward, watching the shifts and changes with the intention of becoming familiar with that aspect of consciousness that recognizes, oh, this is what I'm feeling, this is what I'm thinking. As we do so, a bit of space opens up within us. With practice, that space, which is the mind's natural clarity, begins to expand and settle. This space, this clarity, is always available to you in moments of ease and in moments of anxiety, in the middle of the night and in the full light of day, in solitude, and in relationship. It is your true nature, your Buddha mind, your birthright as a conscious being. No matter how strong the anxiety, no matter how convincing the fear, this clear, open awareness remains, ready to be recognized, ready to be remembered, ready to hold your experience with wisdom and care. I invite you to rest ever more deeply in this natural awareness. Let your body be completely at ease, supported and held. Let your breath find its own rhythm, without control or manipulation. Let your mind settle into its own clarity, neither grasping at thoughts nor pushing them away. If you're prepared for sleep, allow yourself to drift naturally toward that threshold, carrying the peace of these teachings with you into dreams and deep rest. If you're continuing in wakeful relaxation, simply be with what is, moment by moment, with gentle attention and an open heart. Either way, know that you carry these teachings within you now. They've been planted in the fertile soil of your attention, your sincerity, your wish for freedom from suffering. They'll continue to work in you, to unfold in their own way, to bear fruit in their own time, not through force or control, but through the natural wisdom of your own awareness. May you rest well. May you wake refreshed. And may you carry the peace of these teachings into all aspects of your life, finding in them whatever serves your journey toward greater ease, greater clarity, greater love. Deep peace of the running wave to you. Deep peace of the flowing air to you. Deep peace of the quiet earth to you. Deep peace of the shining stars to you. Deep peace of the infinite peace to you. As you drift towards sleep or continue in restful wakefulness, I leave you with these traditional Buddhist blessings. These wishes for well-being that have been offered from heart to heart for thousands of years. May you be safe from inner and outer harm. May you be healthy in body and mind. May you be at ease with life as it is. May you know the natural peace of your own true nature. And may the benefit of this teaching extend beyond you, rippling outward to touch all beings, all lives, all moments. May all beings be safe from inner and outer harm. May all beings be healthy in body and mind. May all beings be at ease with life as it is. May all beings know the natural peace of their own true nature. Thank you for walking this path with me tonight. Thank you for your attention, your openness, your willingness to explore these ancient teachings with a contemporary mind and heart. The wisdom they contain is not confined to any one tradition or time. It belongs to all who sincerely seek freedom from suffering, all who wish to live with greater awareness and compassion. May you rest well, may you wake refreshed, and may you carry these teachings forward in your own unique way, finding in them whatever serves your journey toward greater peace, greater wisdom, greater love. Good night, and deep peace to you.